Well, we have all to act responsibly and to act responsibly, and I hope that this conduct
I know I shouldn't be pushing you into a corner there. It's unfair on my part. Let's just come to Operation Sindoor. The Israeli help partnership has been openly acknowledged. Over the weekend, we had some interesting revelations that there have been severe damage to Pakistan military, their aircraft, and also their air defense systems. Is there
18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand here on CNN News 18, coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, brought to you by Schneider. Well, the top story, viewers, Pakistan's army chief Asim Munir has openly warned of a nuclear war from American soil. He has said that if Pakistan is faced with an existential threat from India, half the world would be taken down with it. He also took aim at Bharat over control of the Indus River, threatening to destroy any dam that Bharat builds or harms Pakistan's water supply, saying we have no shortage of missiles. The MEA has given it back, saying Bharat will not give in to any nuclear blackmail. But in the wake of Operation Sindoor, these charges have been exposed as pure bluster from Pakistan Army Chief. Let's try and decode this further. We are a nuclear nation. If we are going down, we will take half the world with us. That's what Asim Munir has said. The fact is, Bharat has exposed Pakistan's military during Operation Sindoor. 22 minutes. That's all it took. 22 minutes. Now, Bharat's nuclear arsenal outmatches Pakistan's warheads. Bharat has taken the ability to take punitive action below nuclear threshold and also expose Pakistan's nuclear bluster and blackmail. Asim Munir says we will wait for India to build a dam and destroy it with missiles. Fact is that the S-400 and Barak-8 defenses neutralize Pakistan's missile threats, and if Asim Munir fires one towards whatever we build over our waters of Indus, we know and he knows what will happen to his military and Pakistan. Now, Bharat's BrahMos and Agni missiles ensure devastating counters. Asim Munir says Indus water is not Bharat's property. We don't have a missile shortage. Bharat's upstream position gives it strategic leverage. Majority of Pakistan's economy depends on the river and its waters. 90% of the waters feeding the Indus basin in Pakistan come from within Bharat. So, the failed Marshal Asim Munir, who's brought disrepute because of his comments and his bigotry to the uniform itself, stands exposed even as he lands in Brussels. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has launched a tariff strike on Bharat, a whopping 50%, one of the highest in the world over Russian oil imports, while platforming Asim Munir, a bigoted marshal who brought disrepute to the uniform, a failed marshal who brings disrepute to the likes of Sam Manekshaw and other tall leaders who have held that position as field marshal of their own armies. Now, Trump has further diplomatic ties with Pakistan. This has also prompted Bharat to expand its strategic interests with its neighbors. Prime Minister Modi will now be going to China at the end of the month for the SCO summit, and this is his first visit since the Galwan clash in April 2020. While NSA Ajit Doval met Vladimir Putin to expand strategic and defense ties. Meanwhile, Brazil has also called on Bharat to lead the empowerment of the BRICS grouping to send a message to the Trump administration. The question remains, with this Pak-America tango, is there a new opportunity for yet another round of Modi diplomacy? Let's go across to our guests and move the needle forward, viewers, while collecting their initial thoughts on this disgrace to the uniform in Asim Munir and this tantrum crybaby in Trump, who's just throwing not just geopolitics, but the entire baby with the bathwater. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, former GOC 15 Corps of the Indian Army with us, Ambassador Rajiv Dogra with us, Dr. Anand Ranganathan with us. Namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. General Pandey, is he conducting himself as behoves a person who's donned the uniform? Asim Munir?
Yeah, actually, Anand, firstly, to be here again in this panel is quite dicey for me, and then you have given me the starting shot. I wrote an article which just got published about two failed marshals 6 decades apart. One was Ayub Khan, who became a field marshal himself and thereafter led his country to disaster in 1965. And then here is another one who led the country to disaster and then donned the rank of field marshal. Somehow, I think the stature of field marshal, which used to be honorific, essentially has been let down in so many manner. And I think Dogaji will be much more articulate on the subject. When a chief travels to a country with the aim of spending dining out or retirement party of possibly of a lesser equivalent mortal in terms of stature, there is something very, very major amiss. You know, in the world of equivalence, a president will visit for president or a prime minister will. So a chief may visit a country on a visit to see off or engage with a chief. But here is a case which has happened that he's gone for central command, combatant commander. Of course, he may have forces which must be much, much more powerful at his disposal. But yet the stature of a chief of army staff is a general. And yet, if he is upgraded himself to the field marshal, becomes much more higher that he needs to travel to a country for this purpose. Something much more is happening which possibly we don't see. What is it? Is it the current shift which has taken place post-op Sindoor or during this period, that the shift has taken very, very vigorously from the American side, that they have started promoting a terror state and a leader of terror state, right? What is it? Is it about the military-industrial complex wanting us to buy F-35, wanting us to be held hostage in terms of technological advancements and work and stop our Bharat? Is it about Russian oil? And I can assure you, we debated last time also, it is surely not about Russian oil. Russian oil is just something else. It has been happening for last 4 years. Americans are buying Russian stuff. The European Union is pumping oil, LNG, even now quite vigorously from the Russians. Chinese are buying from Russia. The Russian oil is not about leverage. Something is amiss which possibly a layman like me who's outside the geostrategic world may not be able to understand. But is it about F-35? Is it about Boeing? Or have we struck something very, very dangerous in Kirana Hills, which has shocked them and taken them out? Or are we not, like so many other countries, bending forward, backwards to please Trump, who's now being called as something else, because today he started behaving like a royalty. You need to be subdued. Countries are coming, the statements which are coming out. The countries are coming out to make me happy, America happier, and therefore we'll bargain and stuff like that. Something has gone amiss in last about 2.5 months, which we need to actually pin out. But yes, if you're asking me a direct question about Asim Munir, his conduct within the country, the way he went about handling the issue of Operation Sindoor, the way they got bashed up, he should have actually been court-martialed and put behind bar. The way he is ensured and orchestrated, there's a proxy government in place, and the most popular government leader, Imran Khan, is in jail. He, as the leader of Pakistan Army, has made mockery of the Pakistani people, wherein, like, he is leading delegation after delegation to talk to the president or to the leadership in US, whereas actually the Prime Minister of Pakistan is not even getting a call. I think, you imagine Indian chief doing all this. There will be schmozzle. Today people are onto the street protesting against the government. The entire country will be on the street in case something of this nature happens. So something very, very awkward he's doing, and I look forward, and I'm quite sure it's just time that he will fall very, very hard onto the ground.
जैसे हिंदी में कहावत है, गीदड़ की मौत आती है तो शहर की तरफ दौड़ता है. So and there is another one in Sanskrit which says Vinashakale Viparita Buddhi. Both apply to this person, but it's sad that nations and their armed forces take pride in their uniform, and look what he's run it aground, and that too from the highest position, military position that could be accorded to an individual. But Ambassador Rajiv Dogra, there is more to it than meets the eye. Is this the open admission that Pakistan is a military-run state? There's no point, civilian government or otherwise, that its whole thing is a facade. Has Trump in one stroke called that out? Secondly, has he outed Asim Munir as a paltu? That means that, I will call and you will come. I will summon you and you will come wagging your tail. So is that how it is? Thirdly, is America and Trump playing a dangerous game that they'll get sucked into this void that they tried to extract themselves. They know how much Afghanistan cost us, how much Pakistan has pinched them. And Trump himself had called out Pakistan for pinching America of billions of dollars. Now, are they walking back into that trap? What should Bharat do? I know a lot of questions, but please, your thoughts.
Well, firstly, a slight amendment to your Gidar analogy. Gidar ki jab maut aati hai, meaning, I'm sure you meant Asim Munir, तो वो वॉशिंगटन की तरफ भागा. So that is why he's there second time in 2 months. This time, of course, as General Pandey has very rightly pointed out, for no reason at all. But let me start from the speech of his, which has caused all the alarm. Now, there are two versions about it. One version says that there was a printed text, which is he was reading out. But then somewhere along the line and deliberately, he went off the script and said what we have heard loud and clear. And that was deliberate, according to this version, because he did not want the printed text to become anything more than the official version. That means he expected printed text to be available with the American interlocutors, and he also expected that printed text should be available to the Indian audiences and Indian authorities, so that nothing untoward could be pinned on him. But the real thing was the message that he was giving to his own non-resident community, the people who were financing his dinner there. Now, that was a deliberate choice. And it reminds me of an earlier incident when Mr. Kuldeep Nair, the former, the late journalist, he was deliberately trapped by Pakistani ISI when they wanted to tell the world that, yes, now we are a nuclear capable country. So he thought he had got a huge scoop, and Pakistanis were delighted that he had gone back to India and carried out the mission exactly as they wanted by blowing that scoop all over the world. So it is a similar kind of a thing. He's giving a warning from Florida that, look, don't depend on me because I'm unpredictable. And one more background which I would like to emphasize is that today there is a constellation of three. Asim Munir as Army Chief, the Director General ISI, and the Director General of ISPR. All three of them have a background which is as radical as can be. Asim Munir's father was a Hafiz at a mosque, besides being a principal of the school. The DG ISPR's father was a nuclear scientist who was hobnobbing with Lashkar-e-Taiba and others in Afghanistan. And the ISI's father, he was a lieutenant general who invited Hafiz Saeed regularly to lecture to his troops, which caused some amount of resentment. So we have people whose lineage should be a cause of alarm. Much more than that, I mean, this we have dealt with earlier, though not in this kind of configuration. But what is more alarming is the Washington connection, which you referred to.
Yeah.
The Washington connection is even more dangerous because Trump can be, extremely loyal to India, extremely happy about India relationship, and the next moment he would want to punish India. So when you have a constellation in Pakistan which would carry out his orders and make it seem as if they are doing him a great favor, that is the cause of worry. The second thing is the nuclear threat. We are a no first use country, but Pakistan is not. And Pakistan's nuclear doctrine is very flexible, starting from economic damage to their military and so on. It is so flexible that even a few missiles fired by India, if Pakistan wishes, could invite a retaliation in some form or the other of a nuclear strike back. The final point I wish to emphasize is from recent history, two cases of recent history. Clinton, when he intervened during the Kargil crisis, told Nawaz Sharif finally, when he was frustrated with his blockage, that do you know, as you're sitting here, your generals are preparing their nuclear arsenal? Nawaz Sharif was visibly shocked and he said that will be a catastrophe. Now, that was then. In Balakot, on 3 separate occasions, the DGISPR of that time said that we are ready for a full spectrum war. Not just that, there are reports, and it is reasonably valid reports, that on 7 previous occasions over the years, Pakistan was close to pulling the trigger. So we are dealing with an irrational state, and we are dealing with a general or a marshal or whatever who delights in being irrational and who is supported by generals who want to be irrational. So these are tricky times, and let's hope that our firmness is conveyed right and proper to him to behave.
Well, if there are multiple. They have pushed this entire nuclear bluster in the past. Never pressed the button. They've always been close to pressing the button. Never pressed it. So there is always those who get close to the tape and the finishing line, but never finish. So and some. I don't want to expand there. Viewers can understand. Dr. Ranganathan, what should Bharat do?
One, perhaps the only entity that's been slapped more than a kabaddi player's upper thigh is Field Marshal Asim Munir. Given that Pakistan has been trying hard for 75 years to defeat us on land, in air, underwater, and having failed miserably, is now indulging in cheap rhetoric concerning Indus Water Treaty. 2, know this, that you can assemble a whole army of such famished jihadis and make them march towards us, but they will meet the same fate as your real army did time and again once we expose it for its ineptitude. And number 3, moreover, we are getting bored of your silly tricks peddled by semi-literate generals who have got their training in Pakistani madrasas that take pride in teaching bigotry and hatred. 4, keeping this in mind, what has happened yesterday is but a glimpse of the extent to which Pakistan will go to avenge its military defeats at our hands. 5, besides, it doesn't augur well for a nation on the brink of total economic and social collapse to be occupying itself with our internal matters, and so सुधर जाओ. 4 बार घर में घुस के मारा है, 5वीं बार आ गए तो पीओ के लेके वापस जाएंगे. But on a serious note, comparisons are at best tenuous, but I believe, as a layman again, holding the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance will go down in history as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greatest achievement, superseding 370 abrogation, CAA, and groundbreaking welfare measures such as Swachh Bharat and Ujjwala. This is because in a single stroke, he has not only corrected yet another gargantuan Nehruvian blunder, Article 370 being another, that made India suffer intolerably for half a century, he has ensured long peace in the region through leveraging a mechanism that puts the onus of maintaining peace squarely on the terror state of Pakistan. Let me explain. Such a mechanism of waters treaty, it should be emphasized, does not exist between China and any of its neighbors, including India, that share river waters with it. that it existed between India and Pakistan and was so lopsided in Pakistan's favor and was never revisited despite multiple wars and terror attacks perpetrated by Pakistan is inexcusable. War or retributive actions like surgical strikes or Operation Sindoor are required, of course they are, to teach the enemy a lesson. But because there is a cost, economic and social for it, even for India, war is not the best deterrent. Leveraging the Indus waters is. It is a tap, and depending upon how Pakistan behaves, the tap can gush either peace or war. The well-being, safety, prosperity and livelihood of its people are in Pakistan's hand. PM Modi must now ensure that the IWT is forever kept in abeyance till such time it is redrafted and the revised form put forward, if at all, for an agreement between the two nations of India and Pakistan. So all those who are saying Modi is weak, I hope you get some sense and see what exactly Modi has managed.
But not just manage, Asim Munir can only think of sending a missile across if there is a dam that is built. But if the river changes course, then what will he do? So that is also nothing that is not improbable, and it is something that is far more easier if you do it via a series of canals and at a time before it assumes the kind of size that it did. A calamity like what happened in Dharali, one incident there in isolated one corner has forced the Bhagirathi to shift course. So a concerted, planned marvel, something which Bharat does, alters the course, dries up the Punjabs of Pakistan. Perhaps will that wake them up? It's easier said than done, but that's a big possibility. So the larger challenge, viewers and to our guests, is how does Bharat recalibrate and extend this point? Pakistan can say what it wants to do and he will say all that to try and equate himself with Bharat. Well, Bharat is now sitting on the high table, and the tip of the little toe is where Pakistan needs to be kept placed. Now they may keep doing pinpricks and we'll put some amount of soframycin and eradicate that bacteria. But beyond that, they cannot become an infection and they cannot become a place that occupies front and center of our thought process. So I think that's the calibration and that's the understanding we need to have as a nation and as a people. To our guests, thank you very much. I have to cut this short because we are joined by the former Foreign Minister of Singapore, Mr. George Yeo. So talking about Trump and his tariffs, let's move the needle forward. Thank you, Minister Yeo. You've also been the Trade Minister of Singapore in the past. May I please ask you, first up, times they are changing. Trade is being weaponized as a political tool. Donald Trump and his tariffs, and you've been quite vocal about your opinion on this. So we'd like to hear from you first up.
Well, the proximate issue on Russian oil is because negotiations for a ceasefire are reaching a critical phase, and Trump wants to maximize his leverage in these negotiations with Putin. So Russia exports a lot of oil, it's an important source of revenue. He can pressure China because China has leverage on the US, on rare earths. So India is a soft target. But this is for the moment, but Trump changes his mind all the time. And while India has got to be firm, and I think all Indians are united on this, the relationship with the US is still a very important relationship to India.
But Minister, how would you read the global situation? Nations are not going to take kindly to this, and somewhere, someone will have to call out Donald Trump for this.
Now, Trump's a bit of a bully. If he smells weakness, he will go for you. But if he thinks you can hit back or you have counter leverage, he'll be more careful. But he is not irrational. He's maximizing his short-term position. He's not a long-term player. And what he's doing is doing great harm to the reputation of the US for the long term. The US, which we've all been used to for decades, is no more. We're in a great transition to a different kind of world, which will be multipolar. And the reason why the US is behaving in this way, and the reason why there's a MAGA movement supporting Trump, is because the US knows that it is in relative decline, and therefore has to maximize its own game in a shorter term, more selfish way.
True. So what should Bharat do under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Minister? Should strategic restraint be paired with perhaps a measured pushback?
No, I think India is in a good position because in a multipolar world, India is a pole unto itself. It has a big population, it's got a growing consumer market, which no one can ignore. It is good in sectors like IT and manufacturing. You will have to develop. That would be difficult, but it's necessary. Indian agriculture is improving. Little by little, India will develop strengths which the rest of the world cannot ignore. Politically, it cannot. I mean, it's already a major player. Economically, it will become a major player, and eventually, the second largest economy on earth. So it should play on it to its strength and not be short-term in its orientation. I mean, we like BRICS,
Right.
but BRICS is not to divide the world. BRICS is to keep the world honest, to keep the
Yes.
G7 honest.
Yes.
That you can't make decisions and foist these decisions on us. You got to play fair. And I think that's the instinct of India and China in BRICS, not to divide the world further, but in fact to help the world stay one. In this regard, I think India has been skillful in being a member of multiple organizations. It has many tables. You can sit on any of them.
Yeah.
If I like the hors d'oeuvre here, I'll sit here. If I like the soup there, I'll sit there. So India is in that position. But of course, Trump says, hey, you can't do that. You got to choose sides. Why should India choose sides? Why should India disavow Russia, which has been a friend and a strategic partner for decades?
Yes.
I think India should normalize its relations with China because that is to the mutual benefit of both countries, especially when they have to deal with America.
Right.
And Europe is going through a difficult period. They're still used to lecturing us. But it's okay. I mean, we can live with that. And we know how to play it.
Yeah, we'll come to China in a bit, Minister. But what happens to agreements signed at the WTO? What happens to entities like the WTO, UN, etc.? Do you see them dissolving? The America that actually set it up, entities like these, set the terms itself, is reneging on those terms, especially Trump.
I've been a trade minister before and spent many years of my life on the WTO. India has always been tough, I dealt with Minister Maran, with Minister Jaitley. India has always been tough, but not without reason. Because if farmers suffer, votes get affected.
Yes.
And governments can change. So
Yes.
I knew why India had to behave the way it did. But India prefers to have a WTO than not to have a WTO. And therefore it negotiates very hard the rules of the game. But looking forward, the Americans have been sabotaging the WTO by not appointing judges to its tribunals, without which the WTO has no teeth. So we've got to get used to the fact that the WTO will continue to operate, but in an attenuated way. And that plurilateral and bilateral arrangements will become more and more important. I think it was a pity that India could not sign on to the RCEP at the last moment for political reasons. We can understand that. But when it thinks it can, it should get back on. And this will add to India's leverage in the world. Of course, India is afraid of Chinese imports, but I think this can be negotiated.
Yes, that negotiation has to be a strong one and a robust one. Otherwise, the RCEP was hurting Bharat rather than helping it. But China, Minister Giorgio, is a perennial adversary to Bharat. You know that there cannot be trust because there is an expansionist design that China has. It has in the past, via salami slicing, various wars, etc., pinched sovereign Bharatiya territory. And as long as it continues to further its interests in Pakistan and the borders remain unsolved, there will remain this trust deficit between India and China. So how does one negotiate that? What is your point of view as a Singaporean?
Well, the border issue will remain on the agenda for some time.
Yes.
It's difficult because between the British Raj and Qing Dynasty China,
Ji.
there was never any delineation of the border. I mean, in the east, the British asserted the McMahon Line, which was negotiated with the local Tibetan government at a time when London recognized Beijing as suzerain. So there's no legal validity to the McMahon Line. And in the West, the British asserted different lines at different times, but mostly to keep out Russia. So really, each side asserts a claim which the other side says, hey, I don't agree. So it's got to be negotiated. And if you think about it, Russia and China has a longer border than India and China. And it led to war. Now it's completely settled because when bilateral relations improve, the scraps of territory here and there, they didn't matter much. And between India and China, these are very desolate areas, where the oxygen level is very low. So what if I give you a few more kilometers or you give me a few more kilometers?
Yeah.
So I think eventually, if bilateral relations are better, people will be more willing to give and take. I mean, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even up to the 80s, China said, well, let's swap Arunachal Pradesh for Aksai Chin. India didn't want it. Then in the 90s, India said, well, let's go back to that. China says, well, let's think again. And that's partly because of Tawang. So I've been following this on both sides. I have friends on both sides. And I tell myself, this period when Indians think that there are fundamental issues, cast your mind back before 2020, when Xi Jinping went to Ahmedabad and Modi went to Xi'an, and they spent a few days together in Wuhan. And after that, they met again in Mahabalipuram. It was a different mood then. I think that mood can be recovered. And I look forward to Modi's visit to Tianjin, to China at the end of this month. I think a lot of preparations on both sides have been made. And I see relations getting better. Partly because the geopolitics confronting India and China require this relationship to get better. I mean, after all, if you look at the long history between India and China.
Right. Minister, we have limited time, so one important part, because you've been trade minister also, foreign minister also, the aspect of the global south. Now, this is a strong collaboration of nations which are emerging economies largely. They're hugely consuming economies also. About 105 countries. Can they become a stronger voice? Can there be a leadership? And is India playing its role right?
No, the rise of the global south is inevitable. I mean, we are ancient peoples who've seen better days. And the period of Western domination was against that long history only in the last 2-3 centuries. And it was abnormal because they had military equipment. They could, with a small number of soldiers and a few small ships, dominate large populations in vast areas. And today, the relative power is bound to change. Now, it doesn't mean that the global south will be united under China or under India or under Brazil. It will be a loose coalition. Fellow travelers, respecting that we face similar challenges and being able to help one another. Does India want to dominate China or Brazil or South Africa? No. Does China want to dominate the others?
Perhaps.
Even if it wants to, it cannot. Brazil will have a sense of itself. South Africa has a preeminent place in that region. So we'll work together. There'll be conflicts, but overall, what do we want? To acquire knowledge, to develop infrastructure, to give our people better lives, to have a fair shake in the world.
Jay. Thank you. Thank you. Very insightful, very candid. Thank you for speaking with us. Namaste.
My honor. Namaste.
I'm joined by the ambassador of Israel to Bharat, Ambassador Reuven Azar, and at a time where Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's claimed that they want to take over Gaza City and cleanse it fully out with the Hamas and expose the bare truths to the world or the lies that have been spread all this while. Now that's met with a lot of opposition because the world, and it's been harshly criticized in the UN Security Council too. So let's try and understand what is Israel's Gaza plan and why is there so much of a pushback from the global community. The Australians who are with you, Ambassador Azar, thank you for your time first up, now have said, no, we back a free Palestine state. Now, how would you see these responses and these reactions?
Well, these statements by Australia and other countries, I think, are mainly from internal political reasons, and they are giving a boost to Hamas. Hamas actually has taken credit for it, saying that the 7th of October and these atrocious attacks that have been done, now they are being rewarded with these countries recognizing Palestine. So we think that that statement is very detrimental to the efforts to end the war. Israel, as you know, has cleared very straightforwardly that our aims are to bring back the hostages and make sure that Hamas cannot rearm and regroup. So when these statements are being done, they undermine the American efforts and the negotiations to end the war. And that's why I think it has to be condemned. I think that these countries are acting in a very irresponsible way and only prolonging the war that we want to end as soon as possible. And that's why we have no choice but to continue putting pressure on Hamas in order to fulfill the aims that the cabinet has set out on the first day.
There is a view that perhaps Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is getting overambitious. Israel is trying to bulldoze its way. It's now bordering on tyranny. Now, how would you see such a reaction?
Look, we haven't changed our goals from the beginning of the war, and the war can end today if Hamas renounces power and brings back the hostages. So we haven't changed our policy even a bit. What is happening, though, is that Hamas has launched this fake campaign of starvation.
Yeah.
And following which some of the countries that have huge radical constituencies are not standing the heat. We are standing the heat because we have no choice. We have to be very concentrated in achieving these goals, because the meaning of renouncing our goals would be on the account of the security of our citizens. We don't want Hamas to be on our borders again. We don't want the 7th of October to happen again. So although this has been taking a very long time, because Israel was very cautious and was trying to get civilians out of harm's way, we could end it much faster. But we decided to act according to international law. We decided to be persistent at what we do, and we know that we have the support of the American administration, and we have the support of the Israeli people that do not agree to stand in such a situation again in the future.
No, but what about the allegation that more than 1,300 people, Gazans, have died because of starvation? Israeli help, food is not being reached to Gazans. Is there any truth in that?
Well, Israel doesn't have a policy of starvation. What happened is twofold. First of all, that Hamas is sequestrating the aid. We have facilitated into the Gaza Strip 2 million tons of food since the beginning of this war. And what happened a few months back is that in the context of actually going after Hamas, we decided to replace the humanitarian system with a new system that would allow supply of food directly to the population. That system had difficulties at the time, and therefore there was hunger in different places. However, what happened is that it was a fake campaign in which Hamas, with their accomplices, Al Jazeera and others, were putting pictures of sick children, children that suffered from genetic diseases and other diseases. And the Western media, including New York Times, bought it and put it on the first page. So this campaign of fake news actually succeeded because the West cooperated with it. What we are doing now, and I'll give you the facts, we are getting into the Gaza Strip in the last week, 350 trucks per day. The GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, which is supplying food to the Gazans, is supplying 1.5 million meals per day. And on top of that, the Israeli Air Force and other air forces, like the Air Force of Jordan, is airdropping food from the air, about 130 drops per day. So the situation is being dealt with. And those are responsible, the only responsible for the situation of the people in Gaza is Hamas, because they have been refusing to accept reality. They have been defeated. Israel has defeated their military machine. What they are trying to do now is to hide behind civilians, to hide in humanitarian areas, to continue hiding underground, to continue holding hostages. And they leave us no choice but to take the Gaza Strip bit by bit. So what Prime Minister said is very clear. We have these two goals of getting rid of Hamas in the Gaza Strip and getting back our hostages. And this is going to be achieved for the long term by both a civilian rule that will not be Israel. Israel doesn't want to occupy the Gaza Strip permanently, but we will have to have overall security responsibility to make sure that Hamas doesn't come back. And that is very important. Look, we have to be persistent. I know that a lot of people are losing patience.
Yeah.
They want to see this war ended. They want to see stability.
You're also losing the narrative, because in the UN Security Council, the words that were used are quite harsh against Israel. Israel has not been able to get much support. And also friends, all-weather friends, are also getting pressured from multiple corners to take a position. So how long do you think
in the UN
this
we
is
haven't
going to
been popular for a long time.
Yeah.
Look, you know, it's better to be unpopular than to be dead. And people have to understand this. We are defending ourselves in order to protect our lives. And we are not going to just renounce it because somebody has an opinion or doesn't have an opinion. People have to stand united against terrorism. And those who want to stay united against terrorism have to back our action. And even the Arab League has stated in their statement that they don't want Hamas to stay in power in the Gaza Strip. So who is going to take out Hamas? Does the UN Security Council is going to get rid of Hamas? Who is going to do it?
But Ambassador, you control, and Prime Minister, I'm quoting the Prime Minister, he said 75% of the Gaza territory already is under Israeli control.
That's right.
So why is it that you have to push through the remaining 25%?
There are two strongholds that we haven't touched yet. One is Gaza City itself.
Okay.
We have made incursions into it, but we didn't take it. And the second is the central part and southern part of the coastal area. And there Hamas is hiding. Mainly in the Gaza Strip. The stronghold of Hamas is, in the Gaza City. The stronghold of Hamas is inside the Gaza City. And we believe that if we manage to take this stronghold, Hamas eventually will be completely defeated. And therefore, we have to continue. And again, we would be happy to stop today if Hamas renounces power and gives us back the hostages. So this continuation of the suffering is happening because of Hamas.
But is it Hamas controlling the people, or do the Palestinian people support the Hamas ambassador? Because they're still holding on, right? They need to have some support on ground for them to hold on.
They are killing people all the time. Those who are against them, and there are many instances. You can see it on social media. You know, a lot of people are complaining against Hamas. A lot of people don't want Hamas. But those who dare to talk against them are being immediately shot. They're being tortured. Their family members are being harassed. So this is a rule of terror. Nobody wants a rule of terror to remain in our region. Our region will never be stable when you have a rule of terror. And that's why Hamas has to go, and Israel will have to be persistent until Hamas goes.
But do you have American support here, or are they also getting a little pressured by the kind of noise that's being built around?
Look, pressure is a term that has a lot of meanings, okay? At the end of the day, there is no pressure that is going to make us renounce our right for self-defense, or is going to make us willing to allow Hamas to come to our border, to terrorize our villages again. And President Trump has been very clear that he wants Hamas out.
But he's not been able to work out a deal in this case. And thing is, he's been angling for a peace prize. And the question is that you've not been able to bring peace in Gaza. You've not been able to bring peace here.
Well, we have
wiping out one whole entity. Yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. A lot of people recognize it. But somewhere the lines are blurred, Ambassador, between Hamas and Palestinian people in the narrative. So how long can you separate the two?
Well, I'm not sure. It's a good question. I think that at the end of the day, Palestinians will figure out that there's no future with Hamas. I think most of them already figured that out, and they are hoping that with international pressure, Israel will cave in and renounce its aims. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the Prime Minister went out to be very clear about it, and he's backed by the cabinet, which is the elected government of Israel. So, this could end today. As I said, Israel doesn't have, an interest to occupy Gaza permanently. We want another entity that is not Hamas and is not the Palestinian Authority. We don't want people that actually educate their children for Israel's destruction, just to kill Jews. Okay, this is what they're doing. So I think it was Senator Lindsey Graham that said that what Israel has to do is what the Allies did to the Nazis. You have to defeat them. You have to create or encourage the creation of a moderate government that will create a new generation of people that are peace-loving, that they don't wake up in the morning and the only thing that they want to do is to kill Jews and destroy the state of Israel.
So is that the long-term blueprint, Ambassador, that the military control remains with Israel, although the democratic control will be with the Palestinian people? Is that how you envisage it?
For the foreseeable future, that is the blueprint, because you don't have an alternative force that is willing to fight against Hamas. So once that happens, and once we get into the conclusion that Palestinians can rule themselves without threatening Israel, that will be the day in which they have independence. And actually, we have proposed that many times in the past.
So who's backing the Hamas now? They are brought down to their knees. They're almost as good as on a crawl. But where is their support and sustenance coming from?
Well, I think that their support comes mainly from parts of the Arab world and the Muslim world in which there are radical Islamists. You have Al Jazeera, you have TR that are still supporting them. A lot of people are sending donations there. But, there's a lot of deceit in that as well. I think that a lot of people are being taken into a ride. I think that the best way to end suffering is to stop supporting Hamas, because the moment that happens, I think they won't have the backing and the legitimacy to continue this struggle. And as we have to finish it as soon as possible.
So, are you planning some swift action in the coming days?
I don't think it's going to be swift. It's an effort that takes time. As I said, we are working, very cautiously. First of all, we have to make sure that all the civilian population leaves Gaza City, and then start, because usually Hamas booby traps every road and every building. That's why you are seeing a lot of devastation when it comes to destruction of buildings.
There are also civilian deaths. There is an Al Jazeera journalist who's claimed reportedly died to a military strike.
He's not a civilian. He was a listed terrorist in Hamas military wing. We have proof and records that we have caught from the intelligence apparatus of Hamas that person, Anas al-Sharif, he underwent military training by Hamas.
So what is Israel's position here on this entire 50% tariff regime and this entire standoff?
Well, look, we don't really understand why the United States has made this decision. They have been putting forward different statements. We don't interfere in the relations between the United States and India. If there's anything that we can do, I think that the Prime Minister said that he's more than willing to play a role if he's requested to do. We ourselves have been negotiating a deal with the United States. We have been paying a bit more, and I hope that we'll be able to reach a deal.
What's Israel's view and your view also on this American engagement with Asim Munir? Field Marshal Asim Munir. It's his second visit with the Pakistan military head. Is Israel watching this closely? And also what he said on US soil, where he reportedly threatened nuclear destruction and nuclear war, saying if we are going down, we'll take half the world with us. Now that's what he's reported as saying. Do you have a view on this?
Well, I don't think it's a very conducive statement. I think that at the end of the day, there is a kind of competition between the great powers over who is going to influence more. Pakistan, the United States has been having relations with Pakistan for many years. It seems that there are other powers that are entering into the mix. At the end of the day, we stand very firmly by our friends.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
But he's not been able to work out a deal in this case. And the thing is, he's been angling for a peace prize. And the question is that you've not been able to bring peace in Gaza. You've not been able to bring peace here.
Well, we have
wiping out one whole entity. Yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. A lot of people recognize it. But somewhere the lines are blurred, Ambassador, between Hamas and Palestinian people in the narrative. So how long can you separate the two?
Well, I'm not sure. It's a good question. I think that at the end of the day, Palestinians will figure out that there's no future with Hamas. I think most of them already figured that out, and they are hoping that with international pressure, Israel will cave in and renounce its aims. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the Prime Minister went out to be very clear about it, and he's backed by the cabinet, which is the elected government of Israel. So, this could end today. As I said, Israel doesn't have, an interest to occupy Gaza permanently. We want another entity that is not Hamas and is not the Palestinian Authority. We don't want people that actually educate their children for Israel's destruction, just to kill Jews. Okay, this is what they're doing. So I think it was Senator Lindsey Graham that said that what Israel has to do is what the Allies did to the Nazis. You have to defeat them. You have to create or encourage the creation of a moderate government that will create a new generation of people that are peace-loving, that they don't wake up in the morning and the only thing that they want to do is to kill Jews and destroy the state of Israel.
So is that the long-term blueprint, Ambassador, that the military control remains with Israel, although the democratic control will be with the Palestinian people? Is that how you envisage it?
For the foreseeable future, that is the blueprint, because you don't have an alternative force that is willing to fight against Hamas. So once that happens, and once we get into the conclusion that Palestinians can rule themselves without threatening Israel, that will be the day in which they have independence. And actually, we have proposed that many times in the past.
So who's backing the Hamas now? They are brought down to their knees. They're almost as good as on a crawl. But where is their support and sustenance coming from?
Well, I think that their support comes mainly from parts of the Arab world and the Muslim world in which there are radical Islamists. You have Al Jazeera, you have TRT, you have different constituencies that are still supporting them. A lot of people are sending donations there. But, there's a lot of deceit in that as well. I think that a lot of people are being taken into a ride. I think that the best way to end suffering is to stop supporting Hamas, because the moment that happens, I think they won't have the backing and the legitimacy to continue this struggle. And as we have to finish it as soon as possible.
So, are you planning some swift action in the coming days?
I don't think it's going to be swift. It's an effort that takes time. As I said, we are working, very cautiously. First of all, we have to make sure that all the civilian population leaves Gaza City, and then start, because usually Hamas booby traps every road and every building. That's why you are seeing a lot of devastation when it comes to destruction of buildings.
There are also civilian deaths. There is an Al Jazeera journalist who's claimed reportedly died to a military strike.
He's not a civilian. He was a listed terrorist in Hamas military wing. We have proof and records that we have caught from the intelligence apparatus of Hamas that person, Anas al-Sharif, he was he underwent military training by Hamas.
So he was a registered Hamas cadre,
Yes.
working for a television
And he was
platform.
disguising as
or a
press. Look, we are having this all the
journalist.
time since the beginning of the war. We're having terrorists that are disguising themselves to being medical staff. We have terrorists that are receiving salaries from international organizations, including the UN. You have terrorists that have been receiving UN salaries. You had UN workers that abducted Israelis on the 7th of October. And we are having this guy, Anas al-Sharif, was a terrorist. He was taken out. So some of the people still believe these lies, and they take it, they take them at face value. It's, I think, we have to stop being so naive when it comes to Hamas. They are using all these illegitimate ways to try to win this war. It won't work.
Okay. Ambassador, I'm just going to take 2-3 questions, segue a little away, and we've got to talk about Bharat and India and, where President Trump has backed and Israel's right to defend itself and protect its interests. He doesn't seem to take kindly for Prime Minister Modi saying he's got to protect the interest of our farmers, this 50% tax. And I know Prime Minister Netanyahu has an ear at the White House and also with 7 locally unmarked. So what is Israel's position here on this entire 50% tariff regime and this entire standoff?
Well, look, we don't really understand why the United States has made this decision. They have been putting forward different statements. We don't interfere in the relations between the United States and India. If there's anything that we can do, I think that the Prime Minister said that he's more than willing to play a role if he's requested to do. We ourselves have been negotiating a deal with the United States. We have been paying a bit more, and I hope that we'll be able to reach a deal.
What's Israel's view and your view also on this American engagement with Asim Munir? Field Marshal Asim Munir. It's his second visit with the Pakistan military head. Is Israel watching this closely? And also what he said on US soil, where he reportedly threatened nuclear destruction and nuclear war, saying if we are going down, we'll take half the world with us. Now that's what he's reported as saying. Do you have a view on this?
Well, I don't think it's a very conducive statement. I think that at the end of the day, there is a kind of competition between the great powers over who is going to influence more. Pakistan, the United States has been having relations with Pakistan for many years. It seems that there are other powers that are entering into the mix. At the end of the day, we stand very firmly by our friends. I think that in the last year we've seen how terrorists can hit both Israel and India, and what we have to do is to stand firmly and fight terrorism. That's what we're doing. That's what India is doing, and we are going to continue cooperating to face this threat together.
But do you think the world should be concerned that a field marshal would stand on US soil and then talk about nuclear non-deterrence rather than nuclear deterrence? Nations should be careful. Leaders, shouldn't they be careful when they talk the nuclear talk?
Yes.
CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob, and we're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Schneider Electric Smart Home Solutions. Rahul Gandhi today led a group of over 300 opposition members of parliament from the Parliament complex to the Election Commission headquarters in central Delhi. There was great drama as the Delhi police prevented these members of parliament. They dragged them away to the Parliament Street police station. The police said that these MPs did not have the requisite permission to carry out such a large procession right in the heart of the capital. But the opposition, and particularly leader of the opposition, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, is adamant that the Election Commission is indulging in gross irregularities in the preparation of the electoral rolls. There are multiple fake identities, fake voters, a large number of voters all being shunned into one address, 0 addresses, all kinds of allegations that he has made, many of which may be true, but he's also conflated that as helping the BJP. Now, these are 2 separate issues. One is the impurity of the electoral rolls. The second is there may or may not be a direct link between the impurity of the electoral roll and whether or not it benefits the BJP, the ruling party. But that is Mr. Rahul Gandhi's claim. The Election Commission, of course, has hit back at Mr. Gandhi. It has asked him to say the same thing in a signed oath. This, they claim, is as per requisitions of the Representation of People's Act. So this has now become a full-blown political mudslinging war between the leader of the opposition, Mr. Gandhi, and India's independent election conducting body, that is the Election Commission of India. Is it about vote bank politics? Is it about a faulty process? Or is it about returning integrity to the electoral process? We'll get to all of that in just 1 second, but I want to play out some sound bites from what was a dramatic morning that ensued in the Parliament Street between the Parliament complex and Nirvachan Sadan, which is the Election Commission headquarters. The Election Commission has hit back at Rahul Gandhi and asked him to sign a formal declaration or apologize to the country for the allegations that he made last week. Rahul Gandhi has responded by saying that